Thank you for continuing to watch our podcast. This is our weekly update. Most of my effort this week was focused on energy-related issues. We had an important hearing in the Energy Committee on Thursday to hear from Secretary Salazar his views on some proposed legislation that we've developed in response to the disaster in the Gulf of Mexico. And the thrust of the legislation is to try to help with the restructuring of the Minerals Management Service, the functions of that service, put a greater emphasis on safety and accountability by drillers, ensure that there are adequate penalties in place for violation of laws, violation of regulations, ensure that there's adequate solvency on the part of any company that is engaged in this activity so that we don't ever have a problem of actually getting compensation for damages if damages ever occur in the future. But the main thrust of the legislation was to try to put in place the safeguards so that we wouldn't have any additional disasters such as what we've experienced with the drilling rig in the Gulf of Mexico. That legislation is now continuing to be refined, and we hope next week we can actually report that out of the committee, have a committee vote, and propose that and send it to the full Senate for consideration. So that was a big part of what we did. We also had some important meetings here in the Senate to talk about the larger question of what kind of energy legislation we could bring to the floor of the Senate in the remaining weeks of this Congress. The strong sentiment was that we should do as strong a bill as we can do, and that would mean including both energy provisions and provisions dealing with greenhouse gases, trying to limit and reduce greenhouse gases. So the majority leader is going to be tasked with the job of deciding exactly what that legislation looks like. But I hope that we can come up with a bill that can get the necessary support to actually get passed through the Senate. That's my strong desire in this whole process. One other item of good news is that the conferees of House and Senate conferees who've been working on this financial reform, regulatory reform legislation that deals with the abuses and problems that have existed on Wall Street. That conference of House and Senate members has completed their work, and we hope that before we break for the 4th of July recess, that we can actually pass the legislation that comes out of that conference and send it to the President for signature. Again, thanks for watching. I appreciate your continued interest in what we're doing.